And we are live. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in today. My name is Alana Afro Butterfly Whitaker. I am your local resident Web3 nerd, and I am so blessed here to have with me today Harold Hughes. He is such an amazing pioneer inside of the tech space. I first encountered this young man when I went to the Black Tech Week in Cincinnati, Ohio recently, and he was manning up all the Web3 rooms, getting people connected to resources, and just a resource to his community. Harold has a phenomenal story of how he got into tech, so I'm so honored to have this opportunity to interview him this morning. Thank you, Harold, for being here today.
Awesome. Thanks for having me.
So, why I really wanted to have this conversation is as I travel and go to all these different conferences, the number one question I get is, how do I get into tech? What is it possible for me to get into tech? I don't have these credentials. I don't know how to code. How do I break into tech? So if you could sum up in your own sort of opinion, how do people who may not have a technology background or technology credentials start considering moving their trajectory into the tech space?
Yeah, I mean, I think that one of the things we need to start with is understanding that tech isn't just tech. Tech is also communications. Tech is also marketing. Tech is also copywriting. Tech is also legal infrastructure. Tech is also finance and accounting. And so I think that when you hear so many people say that they work in Google, they're not all writing lines of code. And so being mindful that you probably have a skill set that can support a technology company or that you can support a technical organization simply by having the skills that complement the customer acquisition strategy, the sales strategy, being able to think through how that brand exists online and in real life. And so I think that's the first thing, is to demystify what getting into tech is, because I think there's a lot of things to support it. But then secondly, if you do want to get into the more technical pieces where you're talking about data and artificial intelligence and software engineering, there's lots of great resources. I mean, when I started my company, my background's in economics and political science. I spent about a decade in sales and product management and business development, and then ultimately needed to understand a little bit of tech to be able to communicate with potential contract developers to build the product that I wanted. And so I took a course called 1 Month. I think it's like onemonth.com, ONE month.com. And it was programming for non-programmers was the course. And it's like a 30-day course, and it helps you understand like the basics, like what is a front end, what is a back end. And so there's so many different tools available now for people to get acclimated with technology. And now as you're seeing more and more companies that are moving away from degree requirements, that's where you see a great opportunity to be able to put more people into the space that may be coming from non-traditional backgrounds. And I have a whole nother spiel I can give on what happens with gatekeeping around education and how that affects Black people. But we won't go down that path today. But I just want to cover those two things originally, is that tech can mean non-tech, but if you do have an interest in getting into the more technical roles, there's a lot of great resources out there.
I think even you saying that, because I could easily fall down that rabbit hole too, but gatekeeping information I've found is one of the biggest barriers to people getting to where they want to go. I don't think that our people are unmotivated. I think we just don't know some of these opportunities are out here.
Agreed.
Um, for myself, I love going to conferences and exposing myself to new information. So throughout this live, I'll just pop up a couple of good ones that if you're in that area, you might want to check
Yeah,
out. The first one
absolutely.
that I'll mention, this is completely free for people who are attending virtually. This is blackistechconference.com. That's coming up very soon, September 12th to 16th.
Awesome.
Literally, there's over 150 speakers all talking about how they got into the tech space, different resources. So it's free. Like if you wanted to
Good.
intro to wet your palate into tech, this is a phenomenal resource to get started. Also, they do have in-person events. I'll be attending some of the in-person events in Atlanta during this time as well. So that's one great resource. So anyone, if you don't know how to break into tech and you're looking how to do it, at least start showing up to events and conferences where you can start networking. But I want to pivot back to you for a second. And you did
Sure.
touch on your background, but specifically when you were thinking of making Bandwagon, which is your personal startup, you're CEO and founder of that.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
What went through your mind when you're like, I want to create an entire app or community, or what was your thought when you made that project?
As a person who worked my way through college, I worked at Radio Shack to kind of help put myself through school. I always saw technology in a complementary way. At Radio Shack, we didn't have like fancy iPhones or big TVs. We had like transistors and little like widgets that helped someone's life be a little bit easier. And so my lens on technology, even starting younger than that, was always that technology can be complementary to make things better. And so I married that idea with the sense of community that I felt when I went to my first Clemson football game. I'm the first person in my family to go to school, and being able to graduate in 4 years with my 2 degrees was something that really changed the trajectory of my life and my family's life. My brother went there after me, and my sister went there after me. It's become my family school. But when I first got there, I felt really out of place. And so going to a football game on Saturday, you saw strangers hugging and high-fiving because the running back scored a touchdown. And I looked at that and realized, there was no education that you needed to have. You had different religions, different beliefs, different socioeconomic status, and people were hugging and high-fiving. And so when I started the company, I was primarily thinking about how could we use technology to expand on this community that was created here. That community was created and it lasted for 3.5 hours. And then after that, it disappeared, never to be put together again. You could think about like your favorite festival or a performance where everyone was there at that one juncture, and never will you ever get that same group of people together again. And so how do you find ways to keep a community or an audience together and create a better experience for them to come back and do that again and again? And so that's really what was my impetus for getting started with Bandwagon.
That's such a phenomenal concept. And I see how you bridge that into Web3, because even Web3 to most people is so nebulous, but it's literally combining personal autonomy with advanced technology. And it could be something as relatable as the concept that you've come up with Bandwagon, and just allowing people to now have access tokens to that, like NFTs, and literally have your own personal currency for your community. There's so many applications for that. So I'm fascinated by that concept. Another question I would have is, inside of the tech and the tech adjacent space, what are things that you've noticed that are still in high demand, or that are really needed, that people could consider looking there? Like, there's a deficiency of this thing. If I become this thing, I can start filling that deficiency.
I think the biggest thing that exists, especially in Web3 and the communities that I'm in, is community management. A lot of these projects and companies really get started, and they're thinking through what do they want to deliver, what's the community they want to create, what's the contract look like, what does the token art look like. But then being able to manage that ongoing relationship and communication is something that I think is really, really important. A few years ago when I got on Clubhouse, I thought it was really cool that Paul and Rohan made themselves available every single week to just talk to the community. They'd give updates, they would address concerns. And I thought that was really cool. You'd never really seen that before from other media companies, where you think it, Facebook or Meta, like that wasn't something that Zuckerberg's putting himself in front of, or what the folks were doing at Twitter and Instagram. So when you think about making yourself that available, sometimes it's not really possible for the founder to do it. And so I think that being able to outsource that and hire someone that has, mission aligned beliefs and understands the tactical nature of their role and is able to dedicate the time to make the strategy work is really, really valuable. So I think the community manager and the person who's going to be the bridge between the founding team and the community is incredibly vital.
Community manager. So those of you who have really good social skills or consider yourself super connectors or networkers might want to look into that role specifically. I know a lot of people who are the life of the party, so to speak, and those people I think would be ideally suited for that. You don't need to know code in order to do that. You don't need any technical background. Of course, those things help, but simply being a people person inside of this space, we often forget sometimes that techies can be sort of nerdy and a little introverted, and we need a little help in that area sometimes. Another conference that I just wanted to put on the screen and bring up is BITECON. This is another BITECON. And this will be down in Orlando. So this is another Black geared technology conference. So if you're in Orlando, this is a good one to check out. That's BITCON.blacksintechnology.net. This is another great one to check out. They'll have a ton of speakers and they'll even have a career development day. So even if you don't have experience, if you show up and you're looking to work, this is a great place to plug in, especially if you want to be horticulture, viticulture. So I'll be shouting out a whole bunch of Black conferences doing this thing.
There's so many, that's good.
There's a ton. I'm literally going to like 8 things in the next 3 weeks. It's crazy.
I'm sure.
So I would like to back up a little bit. Speaking about conferences, tell me about your experience heralding something like literally Black Tech Week in Cincinnati. How did that come about and what did that do for you?
Yeah, I mean, one of the things we wanted to do is make sure we were able to go support Candace Matthews Brackeen and Brian Brackeen, the entire team at Lightship and Lightship Foundation. And so, one of the cool things about building Black at with Chandra and Audrey is that we are trying to be everywhere that Black people are, especially when there's an opportunity to educate them about Web3, connect them to opportunities within the space, and overall just find ways to advance Blackness in these spaces. And so mission aligned immediately there. And so we were proud to be a sponsor at this year's conference. But it was really great. Like there were so many people that I had never met, a lot of folks I'd been connected with online, but hadn't met in person. And so talked to some folks who were investors or members of the Black At community. I got to explore Cincinnati. That was my first time doing that. And so it was really interesting. Normally these conferences go to the same, standard major cities. And it was good to be able to support a smaller city because you could see, a lot of the businesses that you could impact really, really easily. And so there's no telling the economic activity that the conference brought to that city. So I'm hoping that as they look at next year and the cities they support, they'll continue to be able to grow. And so it's been really cool to see what's grown and happened after that conference as well.
I would definitely agree with that wholeheartedly. That was really my first time to Cincinnati. I'd been to Ohio, I think to Columbus for a J. Cole concert like years ago. But that was my first time in Cincinnati, and I didn't realize how robust of a Black community there was. I also didn't realize how robust of a Black tech community there was.
Yeah.
From that one event, there's people that I talk to on like a nearly daily basis now from that one event. So
right.
I'm sure. I'm sure.
No, I love that. That's great. That's great. I love it.
I'll take this moment to highlight another conference. This is DC Startup Week. So if you're not in the Atlanta area and you want to go, you have a startup idea, maybe you don't even have an idea and you're looking to learn how to begin formulating an idea for either a tech app or a concept, if you're looking for accelerators, if you're looking for mentors and you're in the DMV area, this is happening the same time that the Atlanta conference is happening. So they're pretty much regionally happening right now. This is going to be humongous. There's tons of resources. There's also a career fair here for people who don't have any tech experience or do have tech experience. They're like hiring on the spot and it's free 99. So if you're in the DMV area, September 12th to 16th, check out dcstartupweek.org. And when I say these are heavily Black involved events, if not fully Black owned events, just due to the locale of where they are, all you have to do is hop on the internet and start searching. You'll be surprised. That's how I find most of the events I go to. Or either when I go to the event, I'll ask around like, what's the next thing you're going to? Because I want to go to that too. But yes. So speaking of upcoming events, is there anything in particular that Bandwagon is getting ready to do or anything that you're looking to attend?
Yeah, so I mean, I think the next thing that's on my calendar is Afrotech, I think, in November. I think it's probably the next thing. I think I'm staying put for a couple of months, so that's good, get some work done. But I'll be speaking at Afrotech on Monday, November 14th. I'll be doing my WTF or NFTs workshop again to help onboard more people into Web3, get them set up with their first wallet, help them understand what they can do with the technology and how to make sure they move through the space safely. So that's the next one. I know that I'll be attending Art Basel in Miami and potentially Tech Beach in Montego Bay, which is a really dope conference as well. I'm glad to see them coming back. Yeah, I think so. I was talking with Kirk and Kyle this week and last week. Are you going?
I literally looked at it this week. One of my friends, Fred, sent me that flyer, and I'm like, okay, am I gonna go to Jamaica? Is this what is about to happen?
It's dope. I had a really great time. I think I went in 2019 was my first one, and it was amazing. It was a blast. I met so many people that I talk to constantly now.
That part, okay. I think I'm gonna have to go to Jamaica, y'all. I'm thinking that's what it is. I am going to Afrotech, so I will see you there. And I will take a moment to put that event up on the screen for those of you who might be in the Austin, Texas area. This is November 13th through 17th. Literally, I've been to 2 Afrotech events now, and they were both phenomenal. I went to Afrotech DC, which there's still people I talk to this day from that. Like, literally, there were Black venture capitalists, Black angel investors in those rooms. If you're not familiar with either of those terms, I'll actually be interviewing a Black angel investor week after next, so we can get more into how to get funding inside of this space and what funding even looks like. So stay tuned for that. But
Excellent.
I'm so excited for that. Definitely check out Afrotech. Is a humongous conference. This is probably going to be one of the largest conferences, especially in the Black community, in a long time. It's going to be humongous. But definitely grab some tickets for that. And what's the other one? I'll pull up another one while we're still chatting. But so doubling back briefly to this, you touched on like just being a community connector and really being the outreach person. That's a really good skill set. But let's talk about technical code for a second. What experience yourself do you have with code writing or employing people who write code? And how lucrative or beneficial would it be for someone to begin learning coding at this point?
I think it depends on your propensity to learn that stuff. I mean, it's one of these things where there's a lot of skill sets that trying to acquire it is really based on your ability to learn that skill. So I say that to say, learning to code is harder for me than it is to learn how to be a designer. Like, I can design more quickly than I can code. At the same time, it takes me a while to design things. And so there are some people who are really fast at designing, and I'm better in strategy and negotiations and business model and go to market. So those are the types of things I do. So I would say that, I took that course, Programming for Non-Programmers. That helped me get more confident in being able to speak to engineers about what it is I wanted to have built and what it is I needed. But even then, I'm not writing lines of code. I make sure that I trust my CTO. He leads our organization. Technically, that's Dr. Hampton Smith. And so he leads the technical side of our organization. And so I just trust in him to make sure that we do that. At the same time, I know that it's one of these things. You may or may not have heard of this idea or this exercise where I would tell you how to make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, and you would have to do the steps that I tell you. And so code is only as good as the inputs that you've given it. And so if I said you took peanut butter on one side of the bread and the jelly on the other side, you could imagine someone taking a loaf of bread, sitting on the table, putting the jar of peanut butter here and the jelly on the left of it and saying, oh, I did what you said. And so when it comes to code, I realize how important it is for me as the business side and the ops side to say our customers need this experience. And so to deliver that experience, I have to be overly communicative and I have to be very clear about what my words mean, because that's what's going to go into the code. So I think that as you think about artificial intelligence and facial recognition and AI and data and all these other things, understand that it is trained and it is built based on inputs. And so you may not be the person writing lines of code, but you may be the person helping train it. And so understanding that has helped me know this is where I fit, this is where I complement, and this is where you trust the other people on your team to do what they do best.
I absolutely love that, because I think for a while there weren't as many roles that were needing team involvement or collaboration, especially when a lot of people went through the pan pizza panoramic situation. A lot of people felt isolated. But what I found breaking into the tech community, the coding community, the Scrum community, it's all about being very clear with your words, and it's all about being vulnerable, open, and transparent. Like, hey, here's what I'm able to do, here's what I'm not able to do. Let's meet in the middle somewhere to achieve this common goal. I love that.
Yeah.
Another event. So I'll go ahead and pop Tech Beach up here on the screen. So for those of you wondering, there's 2 different locations for Tech Beach coming up. One is in Miami and one is in Jamaica.
The Miami one is founder focused, and then the Jamaica one is more everyone's kind of coming there.
You say everyone's coming there. Okay, I'm being Jamaica, Harold. Okay, I'm coming. But I just think this is so awesome that there's so many different, like I have tabs upon tabs open up here. There's something out here for everyone, even if you have no technical. Here goes Fred. Fred said yes to Tech Beach.
There you go.
I'm excited about this. I love that we have these opportunities now, because when I was telling my parents about some of the things I've been doing while traveling, they couldn't even fathom this 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years ago. So I absolutely love this.
Yeah, for sure.
And what would you say is one skill set or one thing that you still want to acquire inside of this space? What's something that you want to work on to make yourself more variable in this space, just a little more skilled?
So I think that, and my answer to this is kind of anti your question. So one of the questions I ask in my interviews are, when it comes to professional development, do you tend to invest in fixing your weaknesses and addressing them so that you have less weaknesses and become generally good at more things? Or do you tend to invest your time in becoming a specialist in things you're already good at and becoming world class at them? And so I actually don't have any interest in becoming better at things that I'm not good at. So there aren't any skills that I'm trying to acquire. I think right now I want to become world class in being a community builder. And that means being a good eye for talent and evaluating people's not only integrity, but their skill set, being a good connector, which means that I have to have integrity and have value in the relationships that I'm creating for people, and understanding that, okay, if I'm making this connection, it's mutually beneficial to the two parties that I'm making it for. And so being able to be a good judge of character in that. And those types of things are the things that I try and invest in. And so I tend to focus on specialization. And so for me, I think that the more I'm able to do that, and the broader that I'm able to connect with more people, the more I can impact the people that are in my circle. And so I think that that's really it from my approach to it.
I like that. So it's like literally becoming the master of what you do. Be the best one at whatever it is that you do. I love that.
Yeah. It's just one of these things where, you think about this whole jack of all trades and master of none. And I don't know at what point in time we decided to be more generalists, but if you thought about it, like, let's say that you've got two friends, you've got, Mike and Anna, and Mike is really good at cooking and really good at accounting and really good at fixing cars, but Anna is a terrible cook and doesn't have a car, but she's a world-class accountant. And you have an accounting question, who are you going to call? You're probably going to call Anna. And so the challenge there is that you've got more and more people who are not building specialties, they're not building mastery in these various spaces. And so when the phone doesn't ring, or when people aren't seeking you out and you're not commanding the wage that you want or the roles that you want, it's because you're in this pack of people with a bunch of general skills. And so my belief is that if you can continue to hone in and master and forge that skill set in such a way that you become a world-class or specialist, I think that's where opportunities are. And then it also like leads right into collaboration. Because if I know I'm not great at, fixing cars, I may trade my accounting services for that to help that out. So, hey, I'll do the accounting for your mechanic business, and you fix my car whenever I need to fix it. So those are the types of things I think through. I'm really big into specialization as it breeds collaboration.
I like quid pro quo. I love that.
Right.
And I think we're getting back to an age why I love cryptocurrency so much, why I
Mhm.
love smart contracts so much, why I love DAO so much. We're getting back to an age where bartering is far more of the
Yeah,
move.
for
Instead
sure.
of trading for these IOUs or this currency,
Hmm.
social currency is the currency.
Exactly.
Skill
Social
set
capital is the capital.
exactly. So that's I'm excited for what you're doing. Looking forward to seeing you at Afrotech. The last event I plug will be my own.
Yeah.
Yes. So if you are in Vallejo, Saturday, September 17th, we are having a Web3 Women and Generational Wealth Brunch. So come on out. Bay Area, definitely pull up. Hopefully, we can just educate people, get them onboarded into this space, and help them understand what Web3 is. But I'll be all over the place. I'll be at probably all of those events that I posted. So if you want to link up, if you want to pull up and meet me, I'm there. If you want to connect with Harold, please reach out to him on LinkedIn. Follow along and see what he's doing with Bandwagon and all the amazing things that he does as an adjunct with Black And I'm looking forward to seeing what you do again with Black Tech Week again.
Oh, excited.
Do you think it's going to be in Cincinnati again, or you think it's going to pull up somewhere else?
I think it'll be in Cincinnati. I think they may do it in multiple places. I think that's what they're kind of leaning to, like, hey, we can do this in multiple months, which I think is accessible, right? I think that getting to Cincinnati was a bit of a challenge, depending on if your airports were having direct flights, and then flight costs over the summer were really high. And so I think that by being able to take a lot of this content on the road and meet people where they are, I think that's actually very, very valuable. And we've seen many conferences do that. And I think that Black Tech Week doing that would also be a great opportunity as well.
Well, wherever y'all pull up, I'm going to pull up, because have airplane will travel.
Love it.
And hopefully we can get more people inside of this community, because I truly do think that technology is one of the many ways that we can start building generational wealth, start building skill sets, and start creating communities where we're passionate about something, we're interested in something. So
Right.
Thank you so much for being here, Harold, today. Are there any parting words that you would leave with young aspiring techies?
I think the biggest thing would be to think through how to treat knowledge more like a library and less like a vault. That's one of the things that is like a core belief of mine. I think that oftentimes, whether it's believed to be true or is actually true, the thing we hear oftentimes is someone gets into the room and then they close the door behind them. And so I want to encourage more people to, as they learn information, to help spread that information more quickly. If it took me 2 months to learn something, I want to help you learn it in 2 weeks. And so I think treating information more like a library and less like a vault, especially in Web3 and all these other industries, will help a lot with collaboration. So I'm hoping that we as a community can be more collaborative.
I'm sure we will, because what I've noticed now is a bigger sense of community than ever. I know what's going on in the pop culture world, but in the tech world, in the crypto world, where we're getting tight knit up in here. So
yeah, for sure.
I'm so grateful you came today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
And I'm looking forward to seeing you in Austin.
Hey, pull up on us in Austin. I live down here, so pull up.
You live in Texas, okay?
Yeah, I'll be here.
I need them ribs. All right.
Yeah. Talk to you soon.
All right. Bye, everyone.
Bye.